Welcome to the Hollywood Scholar. I'm Jed Morgan, and Doctor Who has been dead for a very long time, ever since Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall took over the franchise, and that can be for a lot of reasons. The primary one is the writing is just so very, very bad, and that's partially due to the heavy introduction of feminist left-wing politics into the BBC and the show itself, and a lot of people have documented that. I've documented that as well, but you need to look no farther than the ratings for her seasons across her era. When she first started in season 11, she was averaging about 0.8 million viewers according to the Nelson ratings, and that's not great to begin with. The show was already in decline during the Peter Capaldi era because those politics were already getting injected, but there was a sharp increase for the novelty of her first episode. But let's check out what it looks like at the end of her last season, her 13th season. 0.3. We went from 0.8 to 0.3. That is just such a stark difference. Now, these are just the Nelson ratings, which is a percentage, but if we look at her most recent episode, and the total overnight was 2.2 million overnight, beating out the previous series low of 3.21 in the New Year special from 2021. So those are the lowest from New Who, but it's also right there with the lowest across all 60 years. 60 years, her most recent episode is the lowest watched one, and the show got canceled with viewership this bad back in the 80s. So her era is not doing great whatsoever, and it's just, people want it to be over. Fans want it to be over, and I'm very much on that camp, but I unfortunately don't feel like it's going to get better with Russell T Davies, especially considering a lot of the stuff we found out about his new era. The nostalgia will be strong with Catherine Tate and David Tennant returning. I'm hopeful, but I am very, very skeptical. I don't think it's going to be good. I don't think it's going to be returned to form by any stretch of the imagination. But Dr. Karen's final episode has a name, and that name is The Power of the Doctor. Really? It's just extremely generic. There's nothing there to dig my teeth into. There's nothing really there to say. And a lot of people are comparing it to the line of Doctor episodes at the end of the Matt Smith run. There was the name of the Doctor, the night of the Doctor, the day of the Doctor, the time of the Doctor, but all those said a little bit more about what the episode was about than just the power of the Doctor. That seems incredibly generic. I mean, the name of the Doctor, that was vastly important to the entire plot of the episode. Night of the Doctor, it was Paul McGann's regeneration, his worst hour as the Doctor when he became the War Doctor. That's a really bad moment for him. Day of the Doctor, lots of doctors. That one's probably the most generic. And the time of the Doctor, he has more time. So yes, they are generic as well. I won't refute that, but Power of the Doctor is just more generic in my opinion because it really doesn't say anything whatsoever. It's just, they should have just left it at the Centenary Special, what it was previously called, because that was at least an interesting title. Centenary isn't a word commonly used. Power of the Doctor is just extremely generic, but I didn't want to dedicate this video to that lackluster reveal. I wanted to focus it on a CBR article that is just quite profound in its stupidity. So this comes from CBR. She-Hulk and Doctor Who share fan alienations and critiques. Now, first you're just like, oh god, this is going to be about sexism, isn't it? This is going to be, and you'd be right. You'd win that prediction because yes, absolutely, they're going to compare two female shows to each other while ignoring the dozens and dozens of other female shows that people know and love and have zero problem with. I mean, they're talking about taking over a male franchise. That's happened before. I mean, Battlestar Galactica, the reboot kind of took over a male franchise. The main character was a woman in the reboot. Nobody had a problem with that. I mean, some people did have a problem initially, but they were won over by the great writing, and Katie Sackhoff is amazing. So where's the sexism there? There are so many great examples we can say that it's not about sexism, that it's not about all these different narratives they come up with, but the arguments that CBR has is just like, oh, they say they have good critiques, but I don't believe them. So let's jump into some of the things they have. So many viewers have stated that both series are poorly written. Yes, absolutely, and that is my primary criticism of both shows. Well, at least Doctor Who, I've only seen portions of She-Hulk, so I don't have a overarching opinion on that. While most episodes of Doctor Who are written by different people, that doesn't change the fact that they're poorly written. You can have a whole group of people write shit. Doesn't make it not shit. That's not an argument. Some audience are stating that the stars are horrid actors, though both Whittaker and Maslany have received accolades for their acting in the past. They're bad in the role, and they're doing a very poor job in these performances. So the criticism still stands. Their refuting is, oh, they've won awards, so obviously they're amazing in everything they do. That's not how this works. That's not how any actor goes about it. That's not how the acting community works. Some people just give bad performances sometimes. Sometimes they're duds. Sometimes they're not right for the role. Pretty much every A-list actor, every award-winning actor has had a role or two where they are just subpar. And that might be the case for these two, though I've never seen Whitaker in a good role in even Broadchurch. She was very bland. So not a whole lot of response to that legitimate criticism of saying the two of them are bad actors in those roles. Both shows have been identified as disrespectful to the legacy of their characters, despite both franchises furthering themselves from their origins for decades. Yeah, they're disrespectful to the legacy, but they're moving it forward. It's like, yeah, you can shit on the past and run at the same time. Doesn't mean you're not shitting all over the place. That's not an argument either. This is just top tier paragon of journalism here at CBR, where they just say nonsense and hope you think it's profound. And it's absolutely not. These statements don't tend to make much sense. I mean, your statements do. Finally, some, self-awareness. Your statements don't make sense. That legitimate criticism you haven't refuted in any sort of logical manner whatsoever. But they are common complaints surrounding narratives about women. We complain about those same type of things with male-oriented shows. I mean, just look at the movie Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. The same type of criticisms were labeled at that show where it was just, or that movie. A lot of the same stuff was said. A lot of the actors weren't doing their best job. A lot of the writing was terrible, even though it's written by multiple people. And it's very disrespectful to the legacy of all the characters involved, especially Doctor Strange and Wanda Maximoff. I really hate what they did to Scarlet Witch. She used to be one of my favorite Avengers, and now she's just awful. And yeah, it's a male-oriented movie. I thought we only criticize women-oriented movies, but only the ones that you guys want to talk about, not the ones that we love. It's just a non-argument that this entire article is based around, and it absolutely says nothing. It just crafts a narrative based on such little information while ignoring the broader ideas and the actual statements that people are making, because they give no receipts for any of this. They just say, oh, they say it's mean, but sexism. They don't bring any actual proof. That's a big thing with these articles, is they just amorphous sexism out in the world, and it's just impossible to refute when you don't provide any proof. So that's kind of how they're going about it, it seems. And then they, of course, jump into the Rose Tico bit for a little while. I don't care about that. These facts suggest that negative sentiments are unlikely to completely arise from truly disliking the media. Why not? They are disliking the media, and that can be for a lot of different reasons. So yes, it is for disliking, even if it was for these amorphous reasons that they seem to believe it is. It's still disliking the media, so that doesn't make any sense. They come from a feeling of being abandoned by the medium the fans embrace. Yes, and that's a very legitimate concern. If the franchise you know and love abandons its core premise, abandons its core audience, and insults them and tries to capitalize off a new audience that has no interest in this product and doesn't get attached to it, in the case of Doctor Who, the viewership's just cratered when they looked for that new audience. The fans have a right to feel abandoned and slighted by that franchise for just all those horrific things. Like Doctor Who, there were so many things like Jodie Whittaker saying, oh, this is no longer a show for the male gaze. Oh, I don't want to watch this show. It's for man babies. She said, she didn't say man babies, but she said a lot of terrible stuff. And Chris Chibnall absolutely took the core of the show and made something completely different out of it. She-Hulk, I'm not as much of an expert in. I know very, very little about She-Hulk, but I don't think they're intentionally trying to steal it. They're just really, really stupid writers from what I've gathered. But that's still not an argument. They're just like, oh, you feel abandoned, and it's pathetic. You feel, it's like, we were abandoned. So it's a legitimate feeling that fans embraced. This can take many forms, but the aforementioned comments and their framing indicate that it's chiefly because She-Hulk and Doctor Who have put a woman front and center after decades of focusing on their male counterparts. This is a complicated one. So again, ignoring all the times that has been done well, replacing a man role with a female role, or the other instances of being totally fine with a female protagonist, ignoring all those, as they always do. But if a main character is a certain way for a long time, it's okay to stay that way. In the case of Doctor Who, She-Hulk, she's luckily her own character, and she's not necessarily replacing Hulk as of yet, so this doesn't hold any ground. I don't know of a lot of people who are going at it from that perspective, unless it's from the anti-woke perspective, which I do agree with, is that these people are coming at it, like Kevin Feige said, I want more female superheroes than male superheroes, and that indicates that there is an agenda at work before the storytelling. So if you're talking about in that sense that they're taking women to take away from previously focusing on their male counterparts, that would be 100% legitimate criticism, and they don't refute that either. That's kind of the thing with CBR. Just make amorphous, broad brush statements without backing it up whatsoever. This causes fear of inferiority among these who have been abandoned by the stories and creatives, leading to trolling and malice seen across comment sections. Wow, that is just aggressive to a whole bunch of fans. An inferiority complex? No, I don't think inferiority comes into being abandoned. That those are very different emotions and very different scenarios. So, franchise abandons you and you feel bad. That must be because you feel inferior to whammons. I love women, and I've loved a lot of, female-oriented stuff. I mean, I get a lot of flack for Gilmore Girls being one of my favorite shows. I love Gilmore Girls. Don't necessarily feel inferior there. Or Wonder Woman, I praise that show where a lot of other people in this sphere didn't. It does have a lot of problems, especially in the third act, but I love the original Wonder Woman movie. And so many people have dozens and dozens of other examples that they can make in similar statements. They're just making amorphous, oh, you feel inferior because you've been abandoned and now you're a troll. Still, amorphous accusations, broad brush statements without any sort of actual evidence and just being like, ooh, fans are patheticies. That's the best She-Hulk has. And it goes into a little bit more detail on episode 3 that I don't really have any refuting for, at least She-Hulk episode 3. And then it ends off with this quite a banger. Fans who feel slighted are striking out against their fandoms because they feel like they are no longer a part of it, instead of celebrating that more people are now included. So, thing gets stolen from you, given to someone else, and you mad about it. Just be happy someone else has it. Let's say someone broke into your house, they stole all your possessions, and then they gave it to some random bloke down the street whose house is already fully furnished, has no need for this, has no want for this, and they expect you to feel happy that he has stuff now that you don't have. That argument doesn't make any sense. They're just like, ooh, you had stuff stolen and you feel bad about that? Oh, you inferior abandoned pig. That is their big conclusion argument. That is their big, we're right, you're wrong. And a lot of this argument, a lot of their stuff that they say here doesn't apply to She-Hulk really at all. It mainly applies to Doctor Who, so that's what I've been focusing in on. It's absolutely been stolen. It's absolutely been, the BBC has abandoned their primary fan base in this franchise, and you're supposed to feel happy about it. You've been kicked out of your fandom because you don't like what's come recently, and you're supposed to be happy that other people are now included, people that don't actually want to be included, as the ratings prove. So you've just made it so now nobody wants it. Nobody can have it because you've ruined it so thoroughly. Wow, what a great defense of such shitty people at these shitty franchises, in charge of these shitty franchises now. They are terrible franchises now. What a great bit of shilling from Ben Bishop here at the CBR. And I'm honestly not surprised it's coming from them. Of course, they have a lot of terrible takes, but She-Hulk really isn't in grind in this, besides that it's a female lead. A lot of the other stuff doesn't make sense because she isn't replacing Hulk necessarily. Like, they're separate characters, and she may take over his role in the Avengers later, but Dr. Karen literally was the male doctor who became her, so that's literally replacing it. So a whole lot of nonsense in that article, and I really needed to talk about that because that was one of the worst articles I've ever read, and it has zero evidence except, ooh, sexism, no legitimate criticism of these shows, and it's just all the customary stuff that we've been accustomed to from these types of mainstream shill access media sites. And power of the Doctor isn't helping these viewership numbers. That pathetic name is not going to bring back all these people that have abandoned the show just in the interim of Jodie Whittaker. So there, CBR can have it. You can steal my stuff and just enjoy it in your kingdom of desolation, because that's all that's left of this beloved franchise. But anyway, that's all I have for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Anon. If you like what I do here and want to see good, compelling stories that Hollywood will no longer give you, check out my book series, Odyssey of a Phoenix, a mythological epic about philosophy, morality, and modern-day mental illness issues. Books 1, Down in Flames, and Book 2, Apocalypse Then, currently on sale. Book 3, Kill the Dark, coming soon.